The following program is sponsored by the Building Wisconsin Television Network.
Welcome to another project here on Building Wisconsin. I'm Stuart Keith, and on today's show, we're visiting the iconic domes here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to learn more about water conservation and cutting-edge plumbing. So let's get started with Sandy Folaron. Sandy, this is spectacular. What are we walking in?
We are walking into a 7-story facility conservatory. We're in the show dome. And this is the dome that changes seasonally 5 times a year. What you're looking at is our Plantastic themed summer show.
And when you say that it changes throughout the year, just kind of naturally changes from spring to summer to fall?
Not naturally. It does take a village.
Sure.
It takes a village of people and horticulturalists to pull everything out and recreate it. That way you can come to the dome several times a year and have a whole different experience here. The next show will be put in a couple of weeks, and it will be our mum show. So all of this will be gone, and we will then see a sea of thousands of different colored mums with a different theme, which is going to be the Wizard of Oz.
And you know, I look around here and I just can't believe it could ever look more impressive. But with all the different changes periodically throughout the year, I bet each one is equally spectacular.
Well, change is what it's all about for us. I mean, we want to recreate this facility so that people will come back and experience something new and different. Education is a big part of our mission here. So when we talk about not only the plants, but the healing effect of plants, the mental health therapy of plants, there's a lot that we encompass in just a show.
Well, it is beautiful. And for those viewing today that have no idea where we're at, let's step back, explain what the domes are and where they're located and how the general public can take advantage of visiting it.
Well, we are in wonderful Milwaukee. We're one of the top icons in the city. This dome, all the domes actually, are about 7 stories high. They're about an acre. So we're standing in an acre here. It
seems to me it's been a pretty well-kept secret. I mean, I wasn't aware that you're open as often as you are.
Sure, every day we're open, holidays every day, so 7 days a week. A lot of people use this as a destination, not only as a tourist destination, but families come here to see our shows, particularly the train show, which is very popular, or to just experience and take pictures of our Christmas tree and a lot of other things we do here.
I bet you could have a huge tree in a facility like this.
35 feet, 35 feet. Takes us about 2 weeks to switch out a show.
Now, this you said is the show dome. There are other domes on location.
Yes, there is the desert dome, which produces an arid climate, which supports our arid collection of plants. We also have the tropical dome. Now, I may have lied when I said this is the favorite. A lot of people in Wisconsin think the tropical dome is the destination, especially in the winter.
Well, think of last winter, how cold it was. If I had known, I would have been there every day.
It's a cheap trip to Costa Rica. It really is a vacation for people, especially if they want to smell the earth and the humidity of the plants. It's very lush. It's wonderful.
And you get to use all your senses when you visit a facility like this. And when you talk about the mental health, you know, I kind of chuckled at that thought until I walked in here, and it's just peaceful. Sure, I hear some fans in the background, but you get near the water fountains, you get near the plants, you just can't help but smile.
It's nature, and nature has a calming effect. And I think for a lot of people, it allows them to step back, take a deep breath, and enjoy. Especially again in winter, you know, we're really driven in winter, and that's a crazy time for most people.
Sure.
So to come here and feel that you're in a different environment, kids love it. We have over 250,000 people walk through our facility during the year.
Wow.
And so many of them are families with kids, kids that are learning about plants, learning about growing their own food. It is an amazing place.
And you mentioned this is from, you said the 60s these were built?
They were built in the 60s. They were designed by Donald Grebe, and the first construction took place about 61, and they wrapped up the third dome by 67. So we are starting to reach our 50th anniversary.
Wow, that's exciting. But there's also been some major projects, major renovations going on as well.
Yes, we have added on a whole new greenhouse facility to support some of the things we do that need to be more sustainable. Since it was built in the 60s, we really don't have the kind of energy efficiency that maybe newer structures would have. They weren't thinking about sustainability or gray water reuse or even insulated glass. So we're trying to play a little catch up here and reuse our water and find systems that are compatible with what we have here so we can become more sustainable.
Yeah, and as I understand it, there's a pretty impressive rainwater harvesting system that they're installing.
They are. We're so tickled about it because, you know, up to now we've turned on the city water to water these plants. Obviously we've got 3 acres of plants under glass. That takes a lot of water. If you noticed when you came in, we have a plaza that is full of permeable pavers. That captures the water that comes off the domes during a rainfall or snow, holds it, and allows us to reuse it. That to us, I know for most people that was like 1980 maybe,
Sure.
But for us, wow, we're so excited to be able to make the 2 facilities match.
Okay, well, right now I want to go learn more about that rainwater harvesting system, and later in the show, why don't you and I catch up out at the new greenhouse?
I would love to do that. I have so much more to tell you.
Building Wisconsin is made possible by the members of Plumbers 75, proudly serving their contractors and helping build Wisconsin for over 100 years.
We all know the most basic form of life requires clean water to survive. On Earth, we need it to drink, cook, clean, and it touches just about every part of our quality of life. Here in Wisconsin, we appreciate the value of clean water even more as we live alongside the Great Lakes. Yet we often forget to think about how water gets to our homes, schools, and businesses, and then safely back to Mother Nature. Where does all the dirty water go? How is it fresh and clean every time we get a glass of water? Who makes this happen? The answer, plumbers. It's the plumbers who are trained, mentored on the job, and have progressed through a 5-year education program that takes them from apprenticeship to a master of their trade. It's plumbers who are committed to a career and have been trained to protect the health and safety of our water system and make sure you never have to think about where it comes from and where it's going. Yes, we're fortunate here in Wisconsin to have an abundant supply of clean, fresh water. But even more fortunate to have a highly trained and committed workforce to keep and deliver it that way.
Plumbers 75, supporting the plumbing trade in southeast Wisconsin for over 100 years. Since 2003, when CornerStone Plumbing opened for business, the company has grown around a passion for exceeding customer expectations and an ongoing commitment to innovation, integrity, quality, and consistency. Based in Waukesha, CornerStone Plumbing serves the greater Milwaukee area, but you'll also see their work throughout the state of Wisconsin, including at the UW Oshkosh Residence Halls, Johnson Controls Global Headquarters, the Southwest Wisconsin Technical College in Fenimore, and locally at the new Mayfair Mall parking deck, just to name a few. CornerStone Plumbing and Plumbers 75, proud to be building Wisconsin. For more information on Building Wisconsin, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and be sure to watch additional episodes on YouTube or at our website, buildingwisconsintv.com.
Mark, looks like you finally got some good weather, and this project is really coming along nicely.
Yeah, it is. The weather has helped us proceed and try to catch up with the schedule we're keeping for them. Right now we're in the middle of setting our water retention system. You can see a couple of the tanks. We just dropped the one. We still have to strap it down, and he's offloading a couple of our structures. The round structures are actually the risers to our wet well. That's where the water is stored before it's pumped into the building, where the submersible pump will be. And then the vault there, that's where the filter is going to set inside of that before it's piped into the tanks itself. So the water's all filtered before it even makes the tanks.
Boy, great case in point of the role of a plumber on a massive undertaking like this. It's not just setting the toilets or the labs. I mean, you're working with everything, including all the concrete mains and waste and supply lines. And what I really like about this project, it's a great opportunity for us to showcase what is being done out here at the domes. Iconic structures here in the Milwaukee area. You mentioned the 20,000 gallon tanks. Tell us about what they're trying to accomplish out here.
They're trying to reuse the storm water. It's free water if you can contain it. And so the water will come like it typically would through the downspouts into the draining system, which instead of going out to the lake, it's going to go into these tanks, and then from there into this wet well, which will get pumped into the building just like domestic water would. And from there they inject fertilizer into it to water their plantings.
And this to me is awesome, because you think about the energy costs associated with moving the water to water all the plants inside there. That's a tremendous volume of water. Here it's just going to turn into a cycle. Rainwater, snow melt, it's all going to go into those tanks. That's what you're saying. Fertilize it, use it again, and just keep that going. It should be a considerable cost savings over the years.
Absolutely. As long as Mother Nature does her part and we get rain, then they should be able to use water for free.
And you know, I look back there, there's a lot of trades on site, there's a lot of activity going on. Is it challenging? And when I say challenging, I mean a project of this magnitude from a plumbing standpoint.
Absolutely. I mean, just something as easy as, okay, let's just set these tanks in place now, which it requires the crane to do, but we have to coordinate that with them because the other trades are using it as well. So it has to all be coordinated so that they're not having to stop and just stand around while we're doing our job.
And so a lot of communication, that's the key to success of any of these projects, good communication amongst all the trades. So at the end of the day, how does the water get from those tanks into the buildings?
Well, they're all manifolded together, so as the water comes in from the drains, the tanks will fill up evenly, and then the head pressure itself will flow into the wet well, and then there's a submersible pump with floats that'll activate to force it into the building. And then it's just part of the piping system once it gets inside.
And again, it's using water that is just falling from the sky. You're reclaiming it. Doesn't get any better than that. I saw your guys looked like they were digging a main over here. Can we go take a look at what they're doing?
Sure, absolutely. One of the unique things of the project was not being able to turn the water off, and we actually have two water mains coming in that feed this building from the street, so they tee in together, which is what these guys are doing now. So now that they're live off of the new feed, we can tie in to the old feed here. We had 800 feet of 6-inch water main bored from the other end of the park, so we didn't have to dig up the whole park. And they're at the end of that run, tying onto the existing water main now. That's what this process is.
That's a great example of a huge challenge, I would think, on a project like this, because those buildings, they're not shutting down for 6 months to get it done. You have to keep them with all their services coming in, including water. And so was it challenging to overcome, or just had to give a little forethought to it?
Absolutely. I mean, they don't shut down. Every day of the year, the public is using these facilities, so we couldn't turn the water off.
Great case in point of why I want highly skilled, highly trained, not only plumbers, but all the tradespeople working on a project like this. You know, one thing you mentioned was the coordination between all the trades. And when we first arrived, I watched these guys in action. It looked like one of the ops was talking to Kenny, one of the plumbers. and how they were communicating. Even though they're different trades, they were communicating. Each one knew what the other one was asking for.
It's extremely important with heavy machinery to know where everybody is at all times and have good communication, because it doesn't take a whole lot for things to go wrong in a hurry. So communication's key in that regard.
Well, you know, I love being able to see behind the scenes. This is no exception. So how long have you been a plumber?
20 years.
Pretty happy with your career choice?
I am. I like being outside. You're always doing something different, so it never really gets old. New challenges.
Well, best of luck in it, and I really appreciate you coming on today's show.
My pleasure.
Well, Steve, earlier in the show, I had a chance to learn more about the rain harvesting tanks outside. Those were very large tanks.
Yes, they are. So here we are, we're in the sky harvester room. So this is really the brains of the operation and how we take the water out of those tanks that you just seen and distribute that to the rest of the greenhouse.
And as I understand it, those 20,000 gallon tanks are being filled with rainwater essentially and snow melt, anything that accumulates on the premises. And then here at the domes, they're able to reuse that after it's been purified?
Correct. So the way the system works, any of the watershed that comes off of the buildings is collected through the downspouts and the gutters. It goes through a pre-filter outside into the storage tanks. And then from there, out of this blue line right here, that is the intake. That's how we pull the water in from the tanks. It goes through a pre-filter skid to get pre-treated. So we take out the larger particulates. And then the last thing we have is these 3 sets of UV filters, which the UV, the ultraviolet light, kills the bacteria in the water and removes the odor.
So it really is purified, even though they're only using it to water plants. I say only using it to water plants. They take the extra step of purifying it so the plants get the best.
Absolutely.
What happens if we experience a drought and there's no rain or very little snow melt and there's not 80,000 gallons of water to use?
That's a great question. So the plants aren't going to die. We do have a backup plan. So what this line is here, and this running right through that backflow preventer, that is the potable water. So that comes from the city water main, and is through a series of controls. This valve will close, and this valve will open, so that way the water can continue to flow to the plants.
Well, this is amazing to me, and being the plumber that's in charge of all this. How did you learn about this? I mean, are you experienced with these types of systems?
We've successfully installed a water reuse system at Johnson Controls. They used it for flush valves and urinals and water closets and those sort of things. What makes the domes unique is that we're actually using this reuse system for irrigating plants. But this really comes down to a continuation of our training that we receive.
Well, this is pretty cool. So you say as you go, speaking from the water standpoint, it looks like it exits this room through this big blue pipe. Can we follow down the line and learn more about the system?
Yeah, let's go.
So as I look up at the ceiling in this hallway, is that all your work up there?
This is. We're standing in the head house, which connects all the greenhouses together. So we have 3 different systems: the potable water, the water reuse, and the fertilizer system.
How does the water know where to go, if I can phrase it that way, in a facility like this?
Well, it's all controlled by its life support system. So Argus Controls, we play a small part in that with the water reuse and the fertilized water, but the Argus system is really the life support for all of the greenhouses.
And I look at all the technology. Really, this is a cutting-edge facility. It just begs the question, how are you trained? How did you become competent enough to be in charge of the plumbing here?
Plumbing is more than what people realize. This is the training that we receive through our locals and through Local 75, but plumbing is very automated. We use a lot of computer-aided drafting. We use BIM, which is 3D modeling. So this is just an evolution of the training that we've already received.
And so it's really about ongoing education, and an up-and-coming company like yourself and others that I've talked to. Seems to me that's the direction the construction industry is heading.
That is the direction the construction. So latest trends are the 3D modeling and using computers. Our techs are really more computer savvy now than even when I started in the industry 18 years ago. So I see in the near future that computers and everything is going to be done paperless. And a lot is going to be done through lean construction to where we can accomplish more production with less manpower and less effort.
And you know, that benefits not only the end user of this facility, but all of us throughout Wisconsin, because it's all about sustainability, water conservation, and at the end of the day, with professionals like yourself, we're all going to benefit because it's going to be a state-of-the-art facility using much less water.
It is. Anytime that we can harvest the rain and capture it and use that water for irrigation instead of pulling that out of our systems, I think we all benefit from that. I think it's being a good steward. Stu, this is the final line. So this is where the water reuse system ends. So each one of these planting beds is controlled by this solenoid valve, which ties back into the Argus system that we talked about before.
And when you think about all the watering that goes on at a facility like this, it must be pretty intricate because all these plants don't necessarily need the same amount of moisture on a specific time frame.
Correct. They can control through the lifeline. Each one of these drip lines is the lifeline. So each species has their own requirements for how much water, when it needs to be watered, shade, lights. So that's what this Argus system ties together, and that's how our plumbing ties into that whole system.
And I just marvel at the cutting edge technology. And what really makes me feel good is learning about that rain harvester system. The system here, when we're looking at the end result of these beautiful plants, how much water is being saved on an annual basis? I gotta believe it's 100,000 or more gallons of water.
Actually, Stu, I think it's more like 100,000 gallons a month.
That's how much they save that otherwise would have come out of our aquifers here in the city? What a great system. And I know your company works a lot with systems like this, bigger high-tech areas, but you also go much further than that and work on many projects throughout southeast Wisconsin.
Some of the projects that CornerStone Plumbing is currently involved in, we are working at Mayfair Mall for the Nordstrom project as well. They're putting a parking structure up there. That's due to finish at the end of the year here.
It's interesting you say a parking structure. I wouldn't associate plumbing with a parking structure, but again, a lot of surface runoff.
A lot of surface runoff, a lot of storm water again to deal with. Another project that we're working on is the Kimpton Hotel, which is a 13-story hotel that's really a high-end hotel and quite a new concept coming to Milwaukee. So we're really thrilled to be a part of that.
And based on what I've seen so far in today's show, I mean, those projects are definitely picking the right company for the job. But it's not only about the construction on projects like this, you're also strongly involved in the community, aren't you?
We are. Cornerstone has a motto. It's design it, build it, share it. And the share it portion of that is an opportunity to give back to great nonprofit organizations within the community.
Sure. I really appreciate you coming on today's show, giving us a behind the scenes look at the incredible cutting edge plumbing technology that went into the domes. Thanks a lot.
It's been my pleasure.
This is an incredibly unique project. CornerStone Plumbing has taken on a new challenge on a system that I don't think is anywhere else in the state of Wisconsin to the magnitude of this facility. It's tying in another natural resource through the rainwater, treating it, making it the most applicable water for these plants. And as new technologies evolve and are required by our customers, it's important that our contractors embrace them. And it's also important that we as the local and the training facility that provides the manpower and the human resource to perform that work, that we embrace that technology and train our members so that our contractors can perform these technologies and deliver the product to their customers. And CornerStone Plumbing has just put in a unique system that makes this place more efficient, more sustainable, and more environmentally friendly for many years to come.
Since 2003, when CornerStone Plumbing opened for business, the company has grown around a passion for exceeding customer expectations and an ongoing commitment to innovation, integrity, quality, and consistency. Based in Waukesha, CornerStone Plumbing serves the greater Milwaukee area, but you'll also see their work throughout the state of Wisconsin, including at the UW Oshkosh Residence Halls, Johnson Controls Global Headquarters, the Southwest Wisconsin Technical College in Fenimore, and locally at the new Mayfair Mall parking deck, just to name a few. CornerStone Plumbing and Plumbers 75, proud to be building Wisconsin.
Well, Sandy, that was fascinating learning about the rain harvesting system. And you know, earlier in the show, when we were in one of the 3 domes here, you mentioned you had some new greenhouses. Well, voila, here we are, and they look pretty spectacular.
Aren't they amazing? 65,000 square feet. Now these are sustainable. This is great new development for Milwaukee County Parks Department. These are our greenhouses that support and supply everything we do there into the domes.
And what are we growing here today?
Poinsettias. These are our show plants for the holiday show. And as you can see the systems, you can see the irrigation into each and every plant, you can see the new growth. We're monitoring and growing these to our schedule. Thus you'll see the black shade cloth. That allows us to blacken the entire house out so we can force these to bud when we want them to, not when they want.
So you manipulate their growing schedule.
We chorus them a little bit, but it's a gentle chorusing.
And again,
no animals are harmed.
Well, you have to be concerned with this because you mentioned at the show dome, that changes, what, about 5 times a year?
It changes 5 times a year. So we want, let's say our holiday show, we want it to look spectacular whether you come in the first week or the last week of the show. So we have to stage the buds and the growth to meet that schedule. We want it to look good to the very end. So that's how we monitor these plants.
So this must be pretty high tech or cutting edge, because is there just one person that maintains it all, or who knows how to control it?
Well, there is a horticulturalist that oversees the programming. We have 2 staff people on site, but a lot of it is actually computer programmed to adjust the temperature, the water gauge, even changing the vents when the wind changes to make the vents close, or a heavy rainstorm moves in. It reacts to the Weather Bureau service, closes the vents you might have seen while we were here. So it is all programmed so you don't have to have someone on site 24/7 making sure things are secure if bad weather comes. But it also allows us to water when we want, how much we want, and the heat ratio as well. All of that is important to developing these plants.
Now, how many of these new greenhouses are there?
We have 6 growing greenhouses, one of which is the propagation where we start things from seed. So these are pretty much filled with all the things that we need for our shows, for other sites like Berner Botanical Gardens and some other park locations.
Now, how many days a year? You said it's every day of the year, but what are your hours of operation for the general public?
The domes themselves are open from 9 to 5 on weekdays and 9 to 4 on weekends. We do have extended hours during the winter though, because we do a lot of special events, concerts being one. So we're pretty rock and roll in the winter.
Well, it's fantastic. I can strongly recommend it to any of our viewers, anybody in the state of Wisconsin and beyond. Come on out here. This is a hidden gem in the Milwaukee and entire southeast Wisconsin area. Thanks for giving us a tour.
Oh, I loved showing you around.
For more information on Building Wisconsin, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and be sure to watch additional episodes on YouTube or at our website, buildingwisconsintv.com. The preceding program was sponsored by the Building Wisconsin Television Network.